Hello, folks. Welcome back to the housecoat chat number 56. The dude in the housecoat in another fancy pair of shades. Boy, oh boy, do I feel like an old famous wrestler. Figure out which one, folks. You let me know in the comments. Anyways, yes, it's been a while, a couple of weeks. I'm noticing on my YouTube channel that it's been almost 3 weeks. I've had a bit of a cold. The chest has been kind of bugging me for the last while, and I didn't really want to cough and sound awful while I do the show. This is for fun. This is just as truth. I am just a dude in a housecoat. I am no arbiter of actual truth, just a relayer of information. If you are relying on me for your info and thinking I'm all worldly, well, please do more reading, folks. Whatever I may tell you, I hope you look up and research yourself because that is what this is all about, basically, is sharing information, ideas, and having a dialogue. And I like to talk, hence the show. Well, let's get right off. I want to start off. The scone is lit because my last episode I mentioned a child was missing in the Crow's Pass, my old community. All I have to say is, sadly, the search is over. The child is presumed basically dead. As a further note, apparently there is another tragedy within the family. A car accident claimed the child again. My scone is lit for these people. That's all I will say regarding that. It's a sad story, and it kind of ties in with the ostrich stuff because at the same time as this farm was getting ready to be called and the RCMP were called to try and handle bad people, so to speak, anyways, yes, the RCMP have really fumbled the ball in more ways than you could shake a stick at. Instead of always hanging out at the farm, they might have been able to go drive south and actually have found that missing autistic child. That's all I will say. My sympathies to the family and friends of the young child and daughter that passed away in the car accident. But back to the ostriches, folks. It is truly amazing that this saga is still going on, that the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, has a warrant that, as far as I could tell, and I have read the warrant, folks, warrant for the intent to search. It is not your typical search warrant. It's a little bit more broad, and it came out of Edmonton. This is a BC residence jurisdiction, so why it wasn't done in BC is beyond me. That is for tall forehead legal scholars to debate online or wherever. And the RCMP is saying, no, 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 no. That's just a time, the date, the warrant can be served. But if you read it, it basically says it is up till October 22nd of 2025. But I digress that issue because what I want to point out while I'm discussing the ostrich update is that there apparently an appearance, and by appearances from observing, they actually can't get a count of the ostriches, but it appears the flock is dwindling. Every day, big giant blue bins, folks, are leaving this farm and going to a gravel pit. And basically, the dump is exchanging, or the garbage truck is moving the garbage from one truck to another truck. Just to make it simple, folks. But remember, what we have here is a story about a bunch of birds that got sick. A fair number of them died last year. There was a call order. The people that own the farm basically did what they thought was right because they are the owners of the farm and it is their flock, challenged the order, which is why we have the saga that we're going on with today. They don't sell the food. They used to. They used to sell ostrich meat. They still do some stuff, but that's besides the point. We're just going to worry about the food consumption aspect of ostriches. They stopped doing that during COVID because they lost a lot of business, because nobody was traveling and blah, blah, blah. It has nothing to do with the bird flu yet, but they switched gears. They joined up with a Japanese research team, and they are studying the basic antibodies agents that live in the eggs. It's like how we used to make a lot of vaccines. We incubated eggs with a virus, and the chicken hen or ostrich hen, whatever you want to call it, helps develop immunity in the egg yolk. And then the egg yolk was used in vaccines. Go look it up, folks. I'm not here to explain everything to you. I'm just trying to say this is what I know. I'm just a dude in a house coat, right? And I'm just sharing information because the media is not being your friend. Independent media, yes. A shout out to Daisy Media, the gentleman from Ottawa involved with the biker church and everything else. He brings us a lot of stories. Shout out to him for going out there. Shout out to Jim Kerr, who tried to feed the animals and got arrested for pushing the grain back towards the pen. Now, I mean, it looks silly, it sounds dumb, but the point I think that maybe is kind of lost on a lot of people for what Jim Kerr did. Never mind what CFIA is doing, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. You can't really push the food into pen because you may be actually harming the birds. And what do they mean by that, I should say, is that you may potentially, like maybe putting something in the food that could harm the birds. But from what I know, and if you follow the ostrich story, and this is quite sad, is the CFI agents are not actually helping any of the birds. They're not properly feeding the birds. They're rounding them up, trying to lasso them up. It looks quite comical, folks. Really, it does. And all the farm has been asking while this whole ordeal is going on is to allow us to continue feeding these birds humanely, which blows my mind, folks, that SPCA has issued a statement saying we really don't want to get involved, basically. But it is up their alley. PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. Say what you will of the lovely Pamela Anderson, and I say lovely because I'm a guy, and yes, ever since she was on that Labatt Blue poster many, many, many years ago, I've been a fan of the blonde. But she is still a citizen, and she doesn't have to get involved into it. I will, because I like the story. I think the birds are great, and I think we should get out there and say to the government, the CFIA, to please just leave it alone, because if the birds are alive after all this time, after the sickness that infected the herd last December, killed quite a few of them, through independent research, folks, at a lab out of Quebec, basically, they were able to determine that the birds created natural immunity within the eggs and within the flock. Guess what happened to that lab in Quebec? You can look it up. It is now shut down. Our government was basically involved in this research. Shut it down immediately. And I'll have to say this, and I know conspiracy theory, tinfoil hats, whatever you want to call it, but there is a huge firm that makes vaccine, JSK something. I am not going to elaborate too much. That's why I say, please, people, go out there and look and read yourself, because this company has gotten $500 million from the federal government to build a vaccine, mRNA vaccine facility. We already purchased 500 doses of the H1N1 flu thing that this so-called affected the birds of BC, the chickens, and all that. Now, what I've just stated about what was going on, what I just stated about the H1N1 flu, I'm kind of mixing that up a wee bit. The important thing I want you to remember, since about 2017, in North America, we've had about 50 confirmed cases of the bird flu. Excuse me, still a bit of a cold. Anyways, 2017, folks, the year is 2025. So almost a decade, right? A decade, almost 7 years, whatever. 50 people. What is the population of Canada? North America, 400 plus million now. I would say, let's say 400 million. 50 people infected. Apparently, we have more people with measles coming to this country that have spread the disease, but you don't see them running around about measles, other than to blame anti-vaxxers for the rise, when we know it's the people that are coming here that don't need to be vaccinated into this country. It's a true story, folks. In order for you to have a job in Canada back at the height of COVID, you had to be jabbed, but the people coming into this country did not. Make it make sense. But the ostrich story, folks, is amazing. Now, remember when I talked about the garbage thing? They get police escort. They arrested a man for following where these garbage bins are going. Why is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police doing mall cop security? Because that's what they're doing. And anybody who is a decent RCMP officer out there who actually goes out and tries to fight the crime instead of making overtime money like they are in Ostrich Farm and taking away from BC communities, folks. Yes, a lot of these RCMP officers are coming around from different BC areas, leaving those communities short of RCMP officers while they babysit the hens and CFI agents that are doing God knows what to these birds because they're not really taking care of them. I mean, hence they just added another layer of fencing around the farm. They control 3 farms. They destroyed a garlic farm, folks. They took over a garlic farm. The lady owns property besides the ostrich farm. She has to literally email CFIA agents at this farm and this so-called warrant search thing that's encompassed 3 different farms, disrupting the community, the people around this area immensely. Anyways, the garbage is being followed by what I've been told 12 RCMP vehicles. One man was arrested for so-called following. Now, I don't know you or me, but if I'm on a highway, the RCMP cannot just pull you over and say, you're following us, you're being charged. It is dumb. It's kind of dumb as the guy that fed the animals that I mentioned earlier. But that's with the caveat that you don't know, we, as in everybody, doesn't know what Jim is actually doing, so to speak. He could be poisoning the birds, but I digress. I don't think Jim Kerr would do that. Please remember I just said that. Jim Kerr is a decent fellow. I like and respect him for what I have seen from him so far. He is a very decent human, and I wish more of us would be like Jim. Same with DC Media and all the people out there that are trying to do what they're trying to do for those birds. But again, folks, 12 RCMP vehicles to move garbage to a gravel pit, all on video. David Creighton, Creighton is right, whatever his show is, you can find him. I think he works for Post Millennial. Another shout out to a fine individual who is trying to save the ostriches and share the story. Shout out to Redacted News. Shout out to Jimmy Dore, to Katie for constantly speaking up, the owner's daughter of this place, and everybody else. But I will say, to me, it is dumb. It is stupid. These birds should live. If the birds are dying still, and were dying from the months after the so-called original Please Don't Kill Us back in January, then I would say maybe the birds should go. But what do I have and what do I see? I see an agency, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, a government that is quiet, and I'll only mention this briefly, but Ezra Levant asked the health minister of Canada regarding the story of the ostrich farm and everything that it kind of entails is this. Why can't we just let the Americans take the birds when they offer it? To continue doing research to promote better health products and a host of other things, improve vaccines, you name it. Just science in general, folks. She said nothing. She was going to answer. I seen it, folks. I watched it. She was going to answer, but somebody from out of the camera view told her not to. A minister of health who should be the top dog, so to speak, being told by a staffer not to speak. Now, brings me to my next point. The United Nations WHOA. Basically, WHO for animals, right? World Health Organization of Animals. That's basically it. They have a pandemic thing that basically states that if there is a virus detected, the flock must be called. It's the PCR test. The PCR test by the man who invented the PCR test states that it is not a very accurate way of testing for COVID, the bird flu, and a host of other things. This person died shortly afterwards. Why? Don't know. My tinfoil hat that I should be wearing right now should be just shining because of that. He has stated that. He said, even if you upcycle the testing thing, yes, you will detect fragments of stuff, but it won't be accurate. So when it came to these birds, the ostriches, they were already dead for a couple of weeks before CFIA came and tested them, sticking a swab up the ass, basically. Confirmed that they had bird flu. These birds were already in a basic animal dead pit somewhere else, so how accurate can that test be if it's already with other animals that have died for whatever reason? Old age to whatever it is, right? It's a dead pile. We have these things where animals are dumped off to be left to rot and die, basically. I know there's one outside the Crow's Nest Pass. I've been to it. It stinks, right? But there are these things. Now, let's get back to that gravel pit for a second, where the RCMP are basically rent-a-mall cops doing U-Haul green garbage service. These garbages are transferred to another vehicle, basically. I watched the video. Now, if this is supposed to be a health hazard, the cops are not wearing any hazmat suits. The cops are not wearing any protective things from gloves, respirator, or anything, or even wiping themselves, or wiping the vehicle down, or wiping the bins down. Not to mention the use of the crane. If something is above your head and you are doing work, you should be having a hard hat, steel-toed boots, and supervision, and be safely away in case the bin falls. Now, I watched the bin and the sling. The bins are crooked. They're not even straight. Nobody knows how to use the sling properly. It is WorkSafe BC type of scenario that they should investigate. Remember when all this started? Nobody from CFIA or the RCMP were wearing any protective gear. 10 days later, mainstream media shows up, CFI agents, all of a sudden they're wearing the paint suits with respirators, fancy sunglasses, and walking around like human marshmallows. You can't make that up, but they were hanging out there with the birds before, and now they're not. I mean, they're not, like hanging out with them like being normal. They're now all pretending that they are in a suit. I know I'm kind of talking and rattling it on about these ostriches, but I care, and I think that it's an overreach by the government. The tall foreheads in the United Nations with WHOA, our government signing off on a pandemic treaty that allows the likes of WHO and WHOA, sorry. Now, let's just switch gears and talk about Canadian politics and the people that are supposed to be our reporters and journalists. Now, I know we have issues with the United States. I know that people are upset that there's tariffs and trade negotiations and everything else like that that's going on. But what we don't need is people that are being paid by the government who are reporters who are being completely biased for the government. It is shocking, it is silly, and it's misleading. It brings us to the point where the elbow up crowd are not properly informed. And let me just take a slurp here. I mean, seriously, the United States of America is $35 trillion in debt. That's a lot of money of a population of close to 400 million, give or take. Canada, we're over $1 trillion in debt ourselves, with 10 times less the population, but a dwindling workforce. Despite the high numbers that they say, we gain jobs, we gain government jobs. Government jobs require taxes. If Stellantis, General Motors, Crown Royal, and a host of battery companies are either moving, going belly up, that's got to tell you something, right? When we try and sell off our ferries to China to be built when we have perfectly good companies in Canada willing to build them with our money that we raised as taxes? Shouldn't our money be used within Canada to build these things? The federal government saying we will build within, but they allowed China to build $1 billion ferry system, right? My goodness. And you take a look at everything else that's going on. I have read Mark Carney's book, Values. I highly recommend everybody go out and grab a copy, preferably from the library. You do not need to buy the book, folks. Please don't buy the book, but if you do, it's okay. I just don't want to give Mark any of your hard-earned money. That's why I say go to the library. Mark Carney is in a lot of conflict of interest, and our Canadian mainstream media is pretty silent about it. But thanks to like Demetria, I can't really say his last name, but he is on X and on YouTube. His handle is Moose on the Loose. The fellow is spot on, great. I idolize him for his researching. I hope to get as good as he does in digging the dirt to find the truth. All the companies that Brookfield is entangled with, whether they own a share or they are an owner or connected somehow through subsidiaries. Tough word. Anyways, you're getting my point. He is more corrupt and willing to sacrifice this country for a net zero dream. His global alliance of net zero has collapsed. It is also under investigation in the United States Senate for bullying, corruption, and a host of other things. You don't hear this in Canada because Mr. Cochrane from CBC is paid to be the Judas Priest leader of the press in Canada, basically. Same with Rosie Barton. You listen to them talk, folks. It is amazing. They should be holding the government's feet to the fire. Instead, the only thing that they like to do is try and smear Pierre, of all people, anyway. And I'm not even a Pierre supporter. I like to say I'm politically homeless. I used to belong to the BC Libertarian Party. No longer the case because I'm just not there. You know, I live in John Rustad's riding, and that's a conversation for another day. BC politics sucks, but back to the press. I am on X quite a bit. I'm obsessed with X. I love it. Great, great, great social media thing, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But I go in the search bar and I could type in like the ostrich farm. I could type in protests in Ireland. I could type in what's going on in Ukraine, basically. I could type in what I want to know. It'll lead me to the story that I am looking for. Better than Google. I hate to say that, but it's better than the search bar at Google. And it's quicker, faster, and it's at least it shows you raw truth because anybody can upload whatever you want to see now, basically, and they allow it. I don't like the talk that social media is bad, that we should control the speech of things, but that's another point in the discussion. But the Canadian politics and our media landscape really needs to change. I mean, here we are, Orange man bad, Orange man bad. Look what he's doing to the White House. He's tearing down the White House. All you have to do, folks, is Google, grok it, whatever, and look up the history of the renovations of the White House. You could go all the way back to when the British and Canadians were not even really a country yet, but the British went down and burnt the White House down. You could start there, and you could see all the different little things and all the things that the presidents have done to upgrade the White House. And this is my private money, folks. Not one dime of taxpayers' money is going into this project of the East Wing Ballroom. But the media in Canada is look at what Trump's doing, the king, the dictator, blah, blah, blah. He mocked them all and everything else on that No King protest by simply stating, I'm glad to see that there is a protest going on for no kings in America. Glad to say that there's still no king in America, but I am still your president. Did the people win? You could tell me that, oh, yes, there was a lot of protest, but did it make a difference? No, not really. It did not. I mean, they were allowed to protest, despite the people that I heard that he would probably terminate them for protesting. It never happened. Yes, we could sit there and say that what's going on in Portland, Chicago with ICE and all that, but you cannot have a nation with open borders and people coming in and taking things from the people, basically. Same as Canada. You just can't have it. We have laws, rules, and borders for a reason, and it should be enforced, right? I mean, you look at the guy that just came in from Canada claiming to be a refugee who was scamming the Americans. I'm not going to say his name, but he is no longer allowed in Canada for life because he was a con artist. And then there's the recent lady who made a statement that Halloween is bullshit in Canada. She is from Gaza. She is here as a refugee. And folks, if you don't like the country that's taking care of you because you're from a war-torn place, you should either appreciate that you're here, safe, and maybe learn to what Canada is. Because I'll tell you what about Halloween. Halloween in Canada has been celebrated since about 1850. Sure, it's some kind of like holiday, kids, people dress up, but it's a tradition that Canada's had since 1850. It's a cultural thing. It came over from Ireland, Welsh, Scotland, basically, and it's still going. It is a part of our fabric. So for the person to complain and bitch openly and call us white fuckers and a few other words that she said, paraphrasing, but I did not like that she swore because my tax dollars are feeding her. She could go somewhere else. She doesn't have to stay here. She can go back home. Peace is there, right? But I'm not trying to sound like an ignorant, racist person. I'm just trying to sound like a person that says, what? You don't like my hospitality? You're shitting in my house on the carpet instead of the toilet? You can leave. You don't have to stay. It's not racist. It isn't at all. My goodness, you came here on the goodness of our heart and intentions as a Canadian citizen and society. You came here because we allowed it, because we felt sorry for you. It gave you safety and comfort while you are safe from harm's way in the war-torn region of that area. You know, thousands upon thousands of Christians are slaughtered every year, but I don't see the country of Canada bringing any of them in, or the South Africans, or anything else like that. Everything seems to be selected by an NGO, non-government organization, folks. Yes, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up George Soros and look up open societies. Look up the history with the Canadian government. You will see that they want more people from third world countries to come here. I'm all for immigration and everything else, but at the same token, I want somebody that's going to contribute, not pick on my women, not understand our rules, dirty up our rivers or poach or dump their garbage where it doesn't belong. This is Canada. It's a beautiful country. We have kept it clean for years. We try to make improvements to this land all the time. Progress does have consequences, and sometimes consequences are leaving things a little dirty. But we improve on that, folks. And what I mean by that is like the oil sands of Alberta. It was a messy beginning process when they first extracted the oil way back in the 70s, maybe even a little earlier. But lo and behold, in the year 2025, it is a technological marvel that returns the land better than it was because the oil is out of the ground, folks. You keep sitting there, the oil is toxic, it's bad, we shouldn't be using it. Well, they just took a bunch of oil out of the dirt, and now the dirt is dirt instead of oil and dirt, right? Simple. And it's beautiful, folks. It doesn't look good when they start, but when they're finished, it looks really good. I've seen solar farms abandoned in California that absolutely look like shit. And back over in that part of the world, they destroyed plants that take years to grow. Years, and I mean years. It's going to take a long, long time for that area to recover from what was a solar plant facility that now looks like a defiled drive-in movie theater. It's awful. And here we are at 29 minutes, and I have spoke a lot. I know it's been a while since I made a show. I do this for fun. I apologize for talking about the ostriches for quite a long time, but I like to do this. It is a hopeful, audience down the road. And lastly and mostly, remember the scone is lit for you. And for everybody you may have remembered that passed on, you loved and whatnot, and everything else in between, visit an SPCA at least once, folks. You don't have to adopt. Just go and have a look. And thank you for your time. I may make a show again here soon. I will have hopefully a better one next time, but I just wanted to get this out of the way. I have the bug, I have the desire, and I will hopefully keep practicing and getting better and better. And you may even see me in a suit, folks, but not yet, because this is Housecoat Chat. Don't take me seriously. Please do more reading. It is up to you to know more. And thank you, and bless y'all. Positive vibes.